Hi, I'm Katie. I'm an ambassador for Grace of No Age, and this is Mun, creator of Grace of No Age. And we're here today to go over a strength training workout, because strength training is super important as we're aging, to build muscle, to help us to stop losing muscle, because after about the age of 30, your body starts going through sarcopenia, so you start losing muscle tissue, we start losing bone density. Once we're hitting perimenopause and menopause, we're getting hormonal changes that also accelerate those processes. So the more we can do to build strength now, the better off you'll be in the future. Less likely to be prone to falls and injuries, and the more independent you'll be for longer.
Sounds interesting. I'm in.
All right, let's get started then.
Okay, let's go. I'll follow you.
All right. All right, so here we are in the gym. I've tried to keep the workout relatively simple today, so you could do it in any gym, and most gyms will have access to dumbbells and cable machines. I find that one of the movements that people, when they're starting out in the gym, often struggle with is hip hinging. And our hips are one of the most important areas of our body for stability and to keep things like our knees and our ankles safe, to keep our back safe. So one of the things that we're going to start off with is a variation of a Romanian deadlift. So we're working on strengthening our glutes, strengthening our hamstrings, and oftentimes people get very tight in those areas and they start overusing their backs. So we're going to work on that first up. So when we're doing this exercise, we want to be really aware of our positioning of our pelvis. So a lot of the time, if you're used to wearing high heels or used to sitting at a desk all day, you might find that you're in a bit of anterior pelvic tilt where we're getting a bit of arch in the back, sort of lengthening through the abdominals, tightening through the hips. So we want to make sure that we're keeping a neutral spine when we're doing this movement. So in doing that, we want to make sure that we're not sticking the hips back, we're not tucking the tailbone under, we're just keeping a neutral spine. You come from a Pilates background, so you'd know all about that. So neutral spine, we want the ribs to stay stacked over the pelvis so that we're in a strong position, and that way we can load the hips, which is what we want to actually load.
All right.
So Mun, I'm going to give you a couple of dumbbells. So with the dumbbells, you're strong. So with the dumbbells, we want to avoid them swinging around. So we're going to actually try to engage the lats a fair bit. To do that, we're going to pull the arms in towards the torso and push the shoulders down. So arms stay on tight. Then keeping a neutral spine, engaging the core, we're going to focus on softening our knees and pushing your butt back as far as you can.
Like this?
A little bit like that. We want to actually get the spine a little bit straighter. So with your upper body, we want to just keep that neutral spine position and focus on just folding from the hips.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Get it.
That's a little bit better. You could also bring the weights in a little bit closer to the legs, because then you're loading closer to the hips, so you'll get a little bit more tightness through there. Good. And again, try to keep the back a little bit straighter. So really pushing your butt backwards, but the spine is not curving. That's better. So you should feel a little bit more glutes and hamstrings.
I do.
We just want to come down as far as the hips will go back to. So once you get to the point that you can no longer push your hips back, then you'd stop there. So still want to keep really tight upper body, keep the weights in close, and literally just push the butt back as far as you can. Once you get to the point you can no longer push the butt back, then you'll come back up. Yep, and then come back up, probably from about there. Then you start borrowing a little bit of range from the rib cage shifting around. So it's just all in the hips. So I don't even need to go quite as low as that, just more pushing the hips back.
So I'm
about
sticking my
there.
butt out.
Once you get to that point, you can see that the hips are no longer traveling backwards.
All right.
So probably about there. So you're getting maximum loading through the hamstrings.
So should I be feeling my hamstrings?
You should be feeling your hamstrings and glutes. If you're not, we just want to restrict the movement a little bit from the spine actually moving too much. And they're pulling your hips back, and we're only going back as far as the hips stop moving. So once you feel like the hips stop moving, then you're coming back up. Because otherwise we'll start to compensate and use the spinal erectors, or you start using your upper back, and we want to really focus. Does that feel a bit different now?
Now I'm starting to understand the movement.
Yeah. And this is one of the movements that people often struggle with coming into the gym. Because usually when I have a new client come in, I'll assess their different movement patterns, and this is often the one, particularly when people work in an office or something, they'll have trouble isolating out that movement. Whereas most people can generally squat coming into the gym because you've been told all your life to bend your knees to pick things up. So there, yeah, nice. And you can just keep the knees a little bit softer, but the hip movement's looking good. So you're keeping the hips high and pushing them back, probably to about there, and then coming back up. And you can even bend the knees a fraction more to start off with. Then you'll feel a little bit more glutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then coming back up. So we're just focusing on keeping that
Good. How many times should I do this?
So you'd probably, getting used to the movement, we want to actually do relatively high reps just to get accustomed to the movement and where you should be feeling it. And you can use a wall or a pole as a cue too. So you might want to stand in front of it and go, okay, I want to try and push my hips back until I hit the pole. And that way you know if you're getting the hips up and keeping them high and not bending the knees or rounding out the back.
And how would we know about the correct weight to start with?
You'd want to start with something relatively light. Like I've given you a couple of 5 kilo dumbbells. So you'd probably start somewhere between 3 and 5 kilos just to get used to the movement. And then over time you'd gradually increase the weights. But you'd probably start doing, say, about 3 sets of 10. So you're getting enough time, having a bit of rest between sets, because the rest is important when you are strength training. And that way, when the weight goes up, you're recovering better for the next set. But we want to keep the reps relatively high when you're getting used to the movement, because then you get a lot of time to practice it.
Perfect.
All right.
Good. First one, check.
So, being that we're not 20 years old, you might find that you have issues with your knees. You might get a bit of stiffness or pain, and sometimes options like lunges and squats might not be the greatest options when you're getting back into training or starting a new training routine. So an option that we could do is a front foot elevated split squat. We're going to focus on keeping the back leg straight because we've noticed with Mun that she does have an issue with one of her knees. So this is a way that we can safely get the knee into a bit of knee flexion. Having the front foot elevated makes it a little bit easier on the front knee as well. So we're focusing on getting as much flexion of this knee, so as much knee over toe progression with this knee, and with the back leg we're just going to keep a really straight stance. We want to keep the feet strong, so front foot is planted, back toes are planted. We're going to engage the glutes, so squeeze your butt on that back leg, and then we're just going to bend this front knee as much as we can. Just come down to a level that feels comfortable and then coming back up. So we want the knee to travel straight over the toes. So we're just using gradual exposure to get the knee used to
my hands
flexing.
Anywhere?
You can put your hands anywhere. We want to keep nice tall posture, and then just bending the front knee as much as you safely can, as much as you comfortably can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels all right on that knee?
It does.
Yeah. So it's just a way of avoiding triggering any issues with the knee. And we'll do about 8 reps each side.
Okay.
And we'd probably do about 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps on this as well. So sort of loading the quads a bit more, working on a bit of ankle mobility as well.
All right.
That's about 8 there.
That's
Swap
8.
sides, see how the other side feels.
Good.
And we want to keep the tempo relatively slow so that you can control how it's coming down. Because you want to see how it feels.
Helping my quads?
Yeah, it's working the quads mostly.
Yeah.
Well, you're working your whole leg, but predominantly the quads. And so we're focusing on getting that knee to come as far forward as you comfortably can. And just work within your ranges of motion. Everyone's going to have different ranges of motion. Over time, they'll increase as well.
And I think that's 8.
Yeah, nice. How's that feeling?
Feels good.
Yeah, excellent.
And my knees don't hurt? So
yeah, and so that's the way you can safely get into a bit of knee flexion, load the quads without flaring up any old injuries. So.
And we would do 3 reps 8 times.
That's about 3 sets of 8, yeah, just to get used to it, build up that level of comfort with it. And when it gets a bit easier, you could reduce the height of the box that you're using, or you can obviously add dumbbells, add a bit of weight to it, but just go with what feels comfortable with your knees as well.
Perfect. What's next, Katie?
We're going to upper body work. We've done a fair bit of leg work already.
Oh, I can feel my legs.
Yeah, you'll probably feel that later too. So now we're going to focus on a little bit of lat work because our lats sort of run up. I'll get you to turn around, Mun. They sort of run up the side of our spine and connect to our glutes. So they're very important to keep strong for postural reasons. Just so you know, you can walk up tall and proud. So we're going to start off with a half kneeling lat pull down. Most gyms will have a cable machine. We just want a handle attachment. You can adjust the height of the pulley. We'll start with the relatively lightweight just to see how it feels. We want to be relatively close to the pulley, like everything in a straight line.
Okay.
We want to squeeze the glute to keep the hips steady while we're doing it. So we're doing this variation, so we're still focusing on keeping the hips engaged. You're basically going to pull your shoulder down away from your ears and your elbow down towards your hip and squeeze into the side of the body. So you should feel this all contract as you pull down.
All right.
So I'll give that to you.
Let's try. How do I know, or how do other women know how much weight to put? How do you start?
Start light and see how it feels. With strength training in general, you want to do at least one warm-up set anyway. So start with a weight that seems relatively light, maybe somewhere 5 to 10 kilos on this, and then you can add a little bit. If it feels easy, get to your, say we do 10 reps on this, get to your 10. If it's feeling easy, once you get to 10, maybe try the next weight up. Because it's a single arm exercise, you're not going to put a lot of weight on it to start off with.
All right.
Start light and just adjust it as you go. If it feels easy at 10, take it up.
So is my posture right?
Yeah, probably move just a fraction closer, just so everything's straight under the pulley. Yep. And then we're focusing on shoulder down, elbow in towards the side.
Yeah.
Nice, and really squeezing into the side. So you want to feel that contraction all down the side of the torso.
Good. Feels good.
Yeah, it should feel pretty good. And keeping the wrist relatively straight too, so leading with that elbow.
Okay.
And you'll find when you do your non-dominant arm, like if you're right-handed, it'll be pretty easy. When you go to do your left hand, you might find it feels a bit weird. So if you focus on leading with the elbow the whole way through, that'll help you to use the arm that you don't usually use for everything.
Yeah, it's true. It's easier if I think about moving my elbow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not counting. Are you counting?
I never count that well. We'll go about 2 more. Personal trainers are the worst for counting.
I think it's like Pilates teachers.
Yep. That's probably about 10 there.
All right.
And then move to the other side.
Okay.
Then you'll probably actually get more view of what's going on from the back.
So now...
So then we want that same knee down. So swap the legs around. You want the knee... The arm that you're doing, you want that knee down, so you've got a good base of support. So all the weight is going through that knee. And again, we're leading with the elbow, so we want to pull the shoulder down, elbow in towards the hips. Does it feel any different on this side?
Not really.
Yeah. Good, and we're trying to get the shoulder down as much as you can, so maximum shoulder depression.
All right, I'm going to try and count 4. Am I tagging my tail?
Maybe a slight tuck. It's more like you're trying to squeeze your butt.
Okay.
So we just want the front of the hip to be straight. We don't want to have any hip flexion, hip extension. That way it gives your hips a nice stretch while you're doing it also.
It does, yeah. I think 1 more.
Yeah, that should be about 10. All right, nice. How did that feel?
Perfect.
Excellent.
Feels good in here. Feel my hips are open.
Yeah. And that's what's good. Doing this, because we're doing it in that half kneeling stance, you're keeping the hips open. If you do sit at a desk all day, you'll find you do get tight through there. So it is good to do things in a half kneeling stance if it's comfortable. So yes. All right. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, so now we're going to move on to the seated row because generally if you sit at a desk or if you use your phone all day, a lot of us end up with that rounded posture, tightness through here. You might experience things like headaches and stuff, a lot of tension, elevated traps. So doing a seated row is a good way of opening everything up, strengthening the muscles that improve your posture and also just making you stronger overall. So we'll start off with the seated row. So with the seated row, we want to take a seat and grab the handles. Just going to adjust that weight a little bit. So pop your feet on the little platforms there. Slide back a little bit. And then we want to come into a nice straight back. So we want to keep the back up straight, even lean back a tiny bit from the hips.
Yeah.
Engage the abdominals, so we're keeping a strong core. And then we want to keep the collarbone up while we're doing this so the shoulders move well. And you're getting a little bit of a reach from under your armpits. Then pull your elbows down towards your hips.
Nice.
And think about opening up your chest. So we're stretching out the pecs,
Okay.
retracting the shoulder blades. So you can get a little bit of a stretch at the front, but then come back to that nice retracted shoulder. So you should feel a contraction through here.
I do.
Should be getting a nice stretch as you pull
Usually
it
I
back.
tell my clients to squeeze a lemon in between those shoulder blades.
Yes, yeah. There's
Yeah.
breaking a pencil.
Yeah.
And if you think about also pulling the elbows down to the hips, oftentimes when people do this, they start hiking up their traps
Yeah.
because that's what they're used to doing when they get stressed. It's part of your stress response.
Yeah.
So if we think about pulling the elbows down, that'll help pull the shoulders down without thinking about what the shoulders are doing too much, because I find sometimes if you like put your shoulders down, then you'll hike them up.
Yeah.
It's like reverse psychology.
Okay.
So if you pull the elbows down, it's a good way of keeping the shoulders down just instinctively.
I think that's 10.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so would I do the same? Just start with...
Yeah, and start with a lighter, like a warm-up set, and then we'd add a bit of weight. With this, you could probably go a bit heavier because it's a double arm exercise. So we had you starting off with 19 kilos. We could probably take that up to the 26, and that would be quite more of a working set. You want to feel like you've only got like a couple of reps left in a set so that you're actually working hard on that exercise. So a warm-up set should feel easy. A working set should feel like if we really pushed, you could get 1 or 2 more reps. And then that way you're not working to failure all the time. If you're working to failure all the time, it's harder to recover.
Okay.
And we want to be able to wake up the next day and feel good, not be overly sore, but still build strength. And so each time you do it, try adding a little bit more. If you can't go up to the next weight plate, do a couple of extra reps. So if you're doing sets of 10 and the 26 is getting easy, but you can't quite get to the 33, you can either add a smaller weight plate or you do 12 reps, or do as many reps as you can before you can move up to the next plate.
Sounds good.
All right.
And I think this is a good one because most of us women are worried about these things hanging here.
Definitely,
Yeah, with you put your bra and starts hanging. So could
yeah,
this
so
help?
strengthening the back, It's strengthening the back musculature as
I'm
well.
in for this.
And just your posture. It's going to help everything. It's going to help you walk up tall.
Nice.
So when we are strength training, we want to have a good balance between pushing and pulling exercises. When we're doing pushing exercises, we're probably using muscles more at the front of our body. But with this exercise, I want you to think about, like we were doing with the row, we're still getting that shoulder retraction. So we're moving that whole part of the body.
So what do you mean when you say pushing and pulling exercises?
So the exercises you did before, the lat pull down, that's an example of pulling. Like anything that you do in real life, like opening a door, would constitute a pulling exercise. Whereas a pushing exercise would be more like if you had to push a car. Or you had to close the door. So we want to work muscles on both sides of our body. The pulling muscles generally work more posterior chains and back. In general, not completely, they're working all different muscles, and this exercise we're working more anterior parts of the front of the body. So the reason we want to do this too is to create nice shape, because everyone wants to look nice and toned, particularly if you're losing weight, if that's a focus for you, you want to actually build up muscle while you do it. Otherwise, because you're not 20, again, when you do lose weight, you've got less elasticity than when you were 20. So if we can fill up that skin with muscle, you'll create nice shape, you'll look more youthful, and that way you won't have sagging skin as much. So that's a consideration, but
that's a great point,
if you've lost a lot of weight. So yes, with this we're going to do an incline chest press. Well, it's more chest and shoulder area that we're working. So you're going to come and sit down on the bench, lower yourself back. Even though this is an upper body exercise, we want to think about what the feet are doing. So we're creating a solid base from the floor. So you want to feel like you can push into the floor. And we want to get our shoulders down away from the ears. So we're wiggling the shoulders under, so the chest is up nice and high. This way, we're able to push, and we're also able to retract the shoulders on the way down. So we're pushing, and then we're pulling on the way down, creating tension so that it's easier to push up. So I'll let you have a seat there.
That looks heavy.
I know,
I think I can do
the 4 kilos went there. You'll be okay. We'll just do this for lower reps if it's feeling a bit tougher. So with your foot positioning, Bring the feet back a bit. Feel like you can push into the floor.
All right.
And then we want to wiggle the shoulders under a little bit. So we're getting this part of the chest up high. And then you're basically pushing them up. And then on the way down, you're pulling your chest up again.
Like this?
Yep. And if you find when you're doing it, you feel a little bit of tension in the lower back, it could be the lower back's extending a little bit, then focus on keeping a tight abdomen. So we're breathing into the rib cage and expanding it.
This is hard, Katie.
Strength training is hard. We want it to feel hard. One of the great things about strength training is by doing hard things, you build more resilience. And so if you can overcome this, you can overcome anything.
So is this like yoga when you can take it off the mat, take it into your life?
Yes, 100%. Yoga helps you to be calm and centered. Strength training makes you tougher and more resilient.
Oh.
And we'll go one more. That's probably actually more than 10.
All right.
And have a rest there.
Nice.
And generally, most females will find the pushing exercises. So things like this or overhead presses, they're going to be harder. So you will go lighter on these exercises. Yeah. You'll generally be stronger on the pulling exercises naturally. So.
And again, we would do 3 reps.
Do about 3 sets. Do probably 8 to 10 reps. So you'd work up to a weight. So you could manage that weight for 10. Probably stay with that for a couple of sessions, and then if that felt easy, you go up to the 6 kilos. Okay. So you're just gradually building strength over time. You don't want to pick up a too heavy a weight to the point where you're losing form and you can't keep your body in position. Okay. But we want it to be challenging. You want it to be hard.
Nice. What's next?
Maybe a little bit of core work to finish off. You should be good at that. All right, so we're going to do a different type of core training today to what you're probably more used to.
Core training, you mean?
Midsection.
Midsection?
Because a lot of our strength comes from the core, so you want to have a strong core. Obviously, all the exercises we've done, we have been engaging the core anyway, but doing a little bit of extra core work can be helpful, particularly if you're working different types of movements to what you would traditionally do. A lot of people think core exercises are a lot of crunches, planks, where there's other types of exercises that people don't consider, like rotational exercises. And what we're going to do next is an anti-rotational exercise. These are really good for just day-to-day life. Like when I walk my dog, if my dog suddenly pulls me that way, I need to have the core strength to stop that from happening so I don't get my shoulder dislocated. So
that's good.
Just good for day-to-day life.
Fine, yeah.
That's the thing. We want to be able to do movements that you need to do in day-to-day life. That's what strength training is for, to support your life outside of the gym. And that's good. It's a good mindset to adapt. Like you're doing it for a reason. Life gets easier outside of the gym when you're strong. So we're going to do a Payback Press. So with this, you're going to be setting up the cable machine sort of about sternum height, maybe a little bit higher. And we'll start off with about a 5 kilo. We won't go very heavy to start off with. And you're going to come and stand out from the machine. So you're in line with it. We want to keep shoulders down, elbows in towards the body. So everything's set in close to the body. Hips are square. At the moment, this is trying to pull me in this way. Okay. So we're resisting that rotation. Yeah. We want to create tension through the core, so it's not necessarily contracting the abdomen. It's more actually expanding the rib cage and engaging the pelvic floor muscles. Okay. And from here, we're just pushing this out in a straight line. We'll do it this way so you can see what you're doing in the mirror. It's a good way to start with this exercise. Generally, people will try to hike up the shoulder that's closer and not use the core muscles. So we want to keep the shoulders down the whole time, and you should feel this through the obliques. So we're pressing it forward and then bringing it back in. So it's just traveling in a straight line.
Okay, let me try.
So shoulders down, chest up. Keep everything as square as you can.
Yeah, it's pulling me in, yeah.
It's only 5 kilos, but it feels heavy. So
oh my
keep
God.
the elbows in relatively close, particularly with that side. Yeah.
Whoa.
So you're
it's unexpected.
Yeah.
Really hard.
It feels really, you see someone doing it and it looks really easy. And that's often the hardest exercises.
It is.
We'll just do about 2 more. And then we'll swap to the other side. And you might find that depending which stance you're in, one side will be easier, whichever side your dominant arm is doing more work in. Rest on that side. We'll turn around the other way.
So like this. All right.
Again, so think about shoulders down, elbows in close. That way it's easier to keep the shoulders down. I'm just pressing it straight forward.
Okay.
You can probably come out a little bit further from the pulley, just so you're taking the slack out of it as well.
Oh God.
Yeah. Good, that's looking good. So yeah, shoulders down, chest up though.
Okay, yeah. Elbows together.
It's a lot to think about with this too. It's like keeping everything engaged, so it's learning how to
But
create
I really can
that
feel
tension.
my core engaging.
Yeah.
Not in a crunchy way like you
Yeah.
said, but having to work hard to keep me in posture.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of different to Pilates where you're not focusing on contraction as much. It's more expansion. So it's just working the core in different ways. We'll just go one
Ladies,
more.
if you think you're tough in your core, just try
Yeah,
it.
no, you try. Yeah.
And then you tell me
Try something
again.
different. All right, have a rest there.
Last one.
Yep.
Oh. Woo.
How's the midsection feeling?
It is.
Good, excellent.
So that could be like a rounded session, a bit of
Relatively rounded
legs.
session. And you might do some conditioning at the end, maybe a little bit of cardio. You could do some things like sled pushes or something. We could actually do a little bit of work on the sled if you want to do that to finish off.
Okay, sure.
All right, we'll do that then.
Let's do it.
All right.
Katie.
So
What is this?
this is a sled.
A
so
sled.
once you've done a weight session, sometimes it's good to do a bit of conditioning at the
Okay.
end. The sled allows us to do a bit of conditioning while also strengthening.
Okay.
So it's literally strength and conditioning.
Okay.
With the sled, you can put as much weight on it or as little as you like. Since you've never used one before, we'll go with nothing. Or we can
Okay.
get Steve to jump on it for you. So what we're going to do, with the sled you can work different parts of your body as well. So if we're doing a push and we keep the heels down as long as possible, focusing on hip extension, we're going to work the back of your legs a little bit more. So you're going to get hamstrings and glutes. If you come up on your toes and push, you're going to feel a lot more quads. And there's other ways that you can use it. You can drag it. Again, you'll be working different muscle groups depending on where you're bending your knees, where you're extending your hips. But we'll just start with a basic push. This is a good way to end a session. The sled doesn't usually hurt too much afterwards, maybe while you're doing it, but it doesn't create a lot of tissue damage, so you don't need that much recovery from it. But as you can tell, I just pushed it here and I'm already getting short of breath. So we're coming down nice and low. Again, we want to notice the position of our rib cage on this, so we want to keep it stacked. So you're kind of shifting your eyes downwards, keep the core engaged. You want to get your shoulders pretty much in line with your hands, so come down nice and low.
Yeah.
We'll go with the version working your glutes and hamstrings a little bit more. So we're focusing on keeping the heel down as long as you can, so you get into hip extension with this one.
Okay.
So I'll get you to do a lap pushing it that way, and then we'll see how you feel when you get to the other end. So yeah, strong back, so you're pushing through the shoulders.
Like this?
Yep. So shoulders down, and then just push. Big strides, keep the core
Oh,
engaged.
this is fun. I like
And
it.
use your body weight as much as you can too, so you're really pushing against it. Think about pushing a car. So you can see it says carry over to real life. If your car breaks down, if you put too much stuff in your shopping trolley, then this is handy.
Absolutely.
And so this version will work the back of the legs more. All right, have a rest there. Usually we would do like the length of the course.
Okay.
What we'll do though, we'll do the other version working your quads a little bit more coming back. So doing that, we're going to come up on the toes and push it back as quickly as you can. You can stay a little bit more upright and literally almost like you're trying to run to push it to the end. You'll notice this works your quads a little bit more. It's a little bit more.
Like I try to run?
Yeah. It'll be easier with this version. It's a little bit more cardio focused, but you can see it's a lot easier, but you're just targeting
But that's a
different
good
muscles.
cardio. I love it.
Yeah.
Never
so you could
seen
literally
this.
do one way, one the other. It's generally harder with keeping the heel down. Like you can't push as much weight
Oh,
with
I
that.
can feel my heart only doing this.
Yeah, and it gets your heart rate up really quickly. But it's a good way to finish off a session. Gives you a bit of a stretch too, because you could probably tell when you're doing that version, you're getting a stretch through the calves and the hamstrings. And when you bring it back, you're just getting a sweat on.
Fantastic.
And often when people are getting into strength training, they think they need to sweat. You don't need to sweat to do strength training, but if you feel like you need that and you're missing it, sometimes this can be a good thing to add on to make you feel that way, to feel like you've worked hard without having to necessarily kill yourself in the gym. But
Fantastic. That was great, Katie. Thank you so much.
it's all right, thank you. Hope you feel good after that tomorrow.
I will.
Magnesium, that's your friend after doing strength training.
What about we just grab a smoothie and we discuss a bit more how this type of training is good for the women in our platform?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right, let's do that.
All right. Yeah. So now we're hydrating, which is also really important when you strength train to help, recovery, so you don't get as much muscle pain. And when you're new to strength training, you initially will have a fair bit of muscle pain, but it shouldn't be a regular thing. It shouldn't always be sore. And a big part of that comes into nutrition. If you're fueling yourself adequately and you're resting and recovering adequately, then you won't be overly sore. You shouldn't feel inflamed and achy all the time. So it's really important to have a fair bit of protein in your diet throughout the course of the day, because that will help you to repair the tissues that you're damaging when you're training.
Is that before or after?
Generally before. Some people like having protein shakes. I generally just tend to get my protein from food, so I'll have a meal a couple of hours before I train, and I'll generally have some protein and a source of carbohydrates in that meal. And then after you train, that's probably the most important time to have it though, because then you're actually repairing all the tissues that you've been damaging. Not really damaging, but damaging when you're training.
Okay.
So that goes to recovery. And the days that you are training, if you're doing a hard session, you do want to have some source of carbohydrates, something that your body tolerates well. And then throughout the rest of the day, you want to make sure you're having your fruits and vegetables, things that'll get a lot of the minerals and vitamins back into your body to also help you to recover. And that way you're going to get the most out of your training. You're going to feel well. You're not going to have issues with your gut. So the more whole foods you can get in when you're not training, the better as well.
So Katie, some people believe and some women believe that if you do exercise, that will help you lose weight, and it's not so important what you eat.
Yeah, no.
So what about that? Can you tell us a bit more about that from your experience?
Your food matters so much when it comes to losing weight, and a lot of the time women will either undereat or think that they don't eat very much when they're eating something that's really, really high in calories, but it might be they drink their calories, like they get a smoothie and it's like 1,000 calories in that smoothie, and so they're actually not really eating that much food that's going to make them feel like they're satisfied, but they're just consuming like empty calories. There is nutrition in it, but you want to make sure you're having proper whole foods, so you're getting dietary fiber, you're getting all the minerals and vitamins that you need, and also you really want to make sure that you are eating well when you strength train, so that you are recovering. You're not under eating, and you're not training and then going out and smashing a box of donuts because you've trained, because that's not really going to help your recovery. Probably not going to be great for a lot of things, because the whole purpose of training is to get healthier. So a big part of that is what you're eating outside of the gym. So getting quality food in, you'll feel better overall for doing that, but also you're going to lose weight. If you're prioritizing your proteins and your fruits and vegetables, you'll have less room for the other stuff like the cakes and all those things that sort of add calories and don't really have any nutritional value. It's not that it's horrible to have them. Everything's okay in moderation, but if your focus is losing weight, you want to prioritize food quality, and you want to prioritize eating things that agree with your body as well. Like if you eat something and you get a stomachache from eating it, you don't want to eat that food. It's not good for you. It might be good for someone else, but it's not good for you. So it's really listening to your body, finding the foods that agree with your body and make you feel energized and help you to perform, rather than just eating whatever's popular on Instagram at the time.
Well, that makes me think about that. I've only recently started doing strength training, weights and all that. I've been into sports all my life, but I never felt the need to do it because, to be honest, it was fun today, but it's not my... It's not the thing that I like to be out and do things. But I feel since I started, I was starting to lose muscle and the textures, my skin was getting kind of soft. But I also was reading, and also we have a lot of information in our platform, that lifting weights really helps to burn fat. Is that a fact?
It does in a way, because when you have more skeletal muscle, your resting metabolic rate, so how many calories you burn at rest, increases. So in a weight session, you might only burn 180 to 300 calories, as opposed to doing a HIIT session where you're burning 500 calories, or running for miles where you're in that session, you're burning calories. But the thing is, in that session, you're burning calories and that's it. When you strength train, you have that period for 24 to 48 hours where you are actually burning more calories afterwards. And by increasing the amount of muscle that your body has overall your resting metabolic rate will rise and you'll be able to consume more calories without gaining weight. So you can actually potentially eat more of the good things.
That sounds good, ladies.
But also, you're going to,
iron.
you might find, and a lot of the time women are like, oh, but the scales are going up. If the scales are going up, but you're feeling stronger, you're feeling lighter, things like your belly measurements are going down, your actual body measurements are going down. That's what matters, because at the end of the day, muscle weighs more than fat.
Okay.
So you might notice once you start strength training that your weight either doesn't drop quickly or it might go up a little bit. If you're losing weight but gaining muscle, there might not be a huge shift on the scale because you're gaining tissue that's heavier and you're losing tissue that's lighter. So a good thing to do is do something like, here at Fitness Nation we do body scans, and that will give you a breakdown of your body composition. Or you could get a DEXA scan or just get a tape measure. Track a few important sites like your belly fat, your hip measurements, any other sites that you're really conscious of, maybe your arms or legs. You can do your whole body, but if you're doing it yourself, it's easier to do belly and hips. And if those measurements are going down, generally you're going to be having less fat and having more muscle. And you'll notice your shape will generally change. You'll appear more taut as well. And even in eating and drinking and everything after you've trained, you can add things like collagen and other supplements to your routine too that'll also help with that elasticity and recovery, your joints and aches and pains as well. So there's a lot of things to consider when it does come to training, but it's a good journey to sort of take to get to a better quality of life so that you're a lot stronger and a lot fitter for a lot longer.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about maybe some people overeat even though they train and they think that's okay.
Yeah.
But there's also this section of people that kind of starve themselves. They think that I'm not eating, so I'm losing weight, but it's not happening because your body kind of gets into...
It sort of, gets into that, what they used to call starvation mode.
Yeah.
But basically you're just depriving your body of essential nutrients. So that will affect things like your bone density and your ability to gain muscle and all the things that you can do that are positive things to actually boost your metabolism. You're going to be slowing it down essentially because your body will prioritize you surviving. And to survive, you need to be able to store certain tissues. Muscle is one of the most expensive tissues when it comes to calories, so you'll lose muscle over fat. So you'll essentially be like skinny fat. So you're better off to eat a sensible amount of food, strength train, get your cardio, do your yoga, do your Pilates, do as much movement as possible, but nourish your body so that you feel good and you look good, more importantly. Not more importantly, but that does matter to a lot of women.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot here with Katie. It was a great session. I definitely gonna go back through the exercises and come back to the gym and do all the different sets with all my reps and everything. So thank you so much.
That's all right, thank you. Lovely to meet you in person.
Absolutely, yeah. We're here in Melbourne, if you don't know. That's where Katie lives and I'm here occasionally. And we're going to have this other podcast very soon. Where Katie, as a personal trainer and strength coach, and Emma, a specialized nutritionist, are going to be discussing a bit more about this topic. So just follow us in our YouTube channel, follow our Instagram, and you'll know more. And ladies, move weights, eat well, sleep, and be happy. Bye.
Bye.